personal, like I'm Catholic, so that's what I choose to believe. Whatever you choose to believe is your business, right? But for me, I've noticed that I'm someone that like struggles to walk away from things. Whether it's like people or jobs or whatever, and I've noticed, at least in my own interpretation of it, that like when God wants me to move on to the next thing, like he kind of has to rip it out of my life, or really like forcefully close that door, because I'm gonna just keep walking through it, like, even if I know it's like probably not the best thing to do for me, like I don't know, it's just how I am. Like I don't even know what you'd call that, like an attachment issue or something. And like, it's not just people, like it's been jobs, it's been, hobbies, like things like getting in stuff that's like maybe not the best situation or best, or not ideal for like what I want to do with my life. I really struggle to walk away from those things, but to me, again, that's like how I interpret it. I feel like when he really is ready for me to like, hey, come on, like it's time for you to, get going and move on to my plan for you. Definitely like, forcefully closes those doors and just rips things out of my life. But again, that's also the only way I seem to let things go, or move forward or whatever. It's kind of, I feel like, where I'm at right now. Like one of those jobs, I was working at a club, I was doing security, and that's where I met a guy named Chris, where he ended up, like, and he's my coach, and he's a really good coach, knows a lot. And he was just one of those dudes who was just like, hey man, like I see that you already have this solid base, like you do all these things. I just feel like, he's like, you just need like my help. Like if you could just kind of dial in and get that last little bit of nutrition part, like you'd really be next level, And it was just, and like his reasoning really for helping me was to say, man, you're just always nice to people. He's like, and that just stuck with me. So, I figured I'd just, help you out. And that ended up being, now he's a really good friend of mine. He's coaching me. We're getting ready for another season. Our focus is, both of us really are pushing to go pro. But I guess, like, just back to my point, like, of like God's plan, like things happen for a reason, and sometimes you don't always realize it until after the fact, or sometimes it's too late. But like looking back, like I had to be there in that club to meet him, to work with him, to meet him, to get me to be back on track. And when I say like back on track, when I was living on my own, I didn't know anything about money or like managing money or how to do any of that. So, and then when I left Target, like at one point I was working 3 jobs, and that really forced me to kind of put bodybuilding on the back burner. Like I was still training and eating and stuff, but not to full, like not the best that I could have been, because I needed to eat, and like I needed money for bills and stuff, and that's just how life was going for me at the time. And when I say like, so when back to what I was saying, like that whole back on track thing, like he really kind of, him, I guess, just kind of believing in me, because this, to me at that point, he was just a stranger, he was a guy I work with here and there on the weekends. You just say what's up in passing. You don't really know him, But sometimes having a stranger believe in you, sometimes all you need is just kind of like relight that fire within you. And I always told him, like, man, like you gave me my dream back, like for a while there I thought I was gonna have to give it up, and he just kind of came in. He's like, "No, man, like we can do this." And know, granted, like the show didn't turn out how we wanted. I got really sick. The body, fun fact, hyper response to diuretics. That was really bad. It's a story for another time. But, you know, that was hands down like my best shape. And like I have to credit him for, you know, exactly what he said he knew he would do, or he knew how to do, you know, nutrition. And obviously it was our first time working together, so we had to see how my body was going to respond to his direction. And, you know, and of course, like, that's where it's also good, like on a side note, it's good to try to do things on your own too for a while, so that you can learn things. Because if you don't know what you're doing, like to a degree, it can be really hard to differentiate someone who's a really good coach to someone who doesn't know what they're talking about. And you can really get hurt. Like you really can. Like if you find yourself with a bad coach and all of a sudden you're blasting gear and you're crashing your metabolism, and it's just like there's so many things that can go wrong by someone who just isn't knowledgeable. And if you're not knowledgeable, how would you ever know? You know, so granted, like now, because I've done these on my own, like obviously, like I'm not a pro yet, right? So I wasn't getting the results I needed by myself. Hey, so you need a coach, and that's okay. Like, it's good to have a coach. Even if you know what you're doing, it's good to have a coach. It's good to have someone to hold you accountable, you know. And that was something I needed too, because it's really easy to like make excuses for yourself when you're the one doing it, because who's gonna know? You're lying to yourself, you know. But when someone checks in with you and now you got to answer to them, you're like, oh man, maybe I don't need those cookies, you know, because I'll be fucking up some cookies.